Now, ignore everything I said about the puts Fred. So let's pretend for a second we didn't have this trick that I just showed you about puts. What if we wanted, with just using the p keyword alone, what if we wanted to do like a little exercise where we print out each of the items from this array on a new line? Sort of like what's puts doing under the hood is another way to say it. So this, what we're about to do, is so important. This is going to be the underpinning of everything we're going to do for the rest of today, and maybe the rest of the course. And that is the concept of how do we do something with each item in this list one at a time. That's what I'm going to present now. So we've looked up an individual index. We've overwritten an individual index. But if I said, I want you to write code that does something with all the different things in the array, such as I want you to print out each item in the array on its own line, or I want you to print out each, let's say they were all strings. I want you to print out each string on its own line in all capital letters. I want you to do something with each and every item in this array. I will show you now how we do that. And it's with a loop. And there's actually nothing here that you don't already know, but it's the putting of it together. So I'm going to make a new tab. I'm going to make a new array. I'm going to call this array array, because that's a better name for an array than Fred. I'm going to put a bunch of single character strings in there. And now I want to print out each of these strings on its own line without using puts. That's basically the challenge I'm giving myself right now. Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going to make a loop. In this case, we have 5 items in our array. So I'm going to make my loop occur 5 times. What I would like to happen here is that I want to print out first array 0, then array 1, array 2, array 3, and array 4. Does that make sense? Without this loop, let me just comment this out. I would have to do this all manually. This is basically what I'm trying to achieve, but I would like to do it all with a single loop. Instead of actually, imagine I had an array with 100 things in it. I don't want to have to write 100 lines of code. But if I want to print out all the different items in the array, I could do so with a loop as follows. I'm going to keep this commented out and put that back in. So I'm going to do, instead of p array 0, I'm going to make a variable outside this loop called index. I'm going to start it at 0. And here, instead of p array 0, I'm going to say p array index, which the first time this loop goes around, index is 0. So it's as if I said p array 0, which will print the first item in the array. And then on the next line, I'll say index equals index plus 1. And if I run this, it works. Does this concept make sense? So instead of writing this out manually, I wrote it as a loop. I started a variable outside a loop before it begins called index. I could have called it purple hippo, but I call it index because that's what it's keeping track of. It's keeping track of which index we're up to in the array as we loop through it. And the first time I go through the loop, I print out array index, which is, in this case, index is 0, right? So array 0 is A, the A string. Then we increase index by 1, and we begin the loop for round number 2. By By this time, index is number 1. And then we say p array 1. We loop again, it's p array 2, p array 3, p array 4. And effectively, we end up printing out each and every item from this array. Any questions about this? This makes sense. You're going to be doing this a lot. Not just throughout your career, but for the rest of today. So this is, I'm giving you a lot of exercises that involve this concept, where you make an index, usually it starts at 0, and you have a loop, and effectively you loop, what I call loop through this array. The official term is iterate through this array, but let's call it loop. You basically loop through the array and do something with it.